Hi, I'm August Keller, and this is my review of Star Wars The Last Jedi. I know there's a lot of baggage around this movie, and it's difficult to have a real conversation about it on the internet, but I think it's interesting, and I'm going to try. Most importantly, I think it's the most ambitious Disney Star Wars movie there is. Its story is overstuffed, some of it works, and some of it doesn't so much. Let's start with the drama. There are several arcs, um, but there is rushed internal conflicts. There are complex characters, but spotty romance. And ultimately, I think there is a decent amount of heart. To sum it up, pretty much, I think the Kylo, Ren, and Rey stuff works, but that is kind of cramped by the Finn and Poe stuff. I think the Finn and Poe stuff could have worked as well, but I think for me they should have been in the same thread together in the same um, plot line. They could have bounced off each other. They could have arced together. Their arcs could have either mirrored or contrasted, and I think that would have saved time. Um, as is, everyone does arc, but some of those arcs are less than satisfying because everything's so crowded. I think um, for me, I didn't even realize Finn arced the first time I watched it because his setup was so minimal. They state it, but they don't really keep going back to it, so they don't really pound it home, and that arc doesn't feel as satisfying because the point of an arc is for the character to be one way and us as an audience to feel the change, and that change isn't really felt very much because again everything is just kind of happening so fast. There's just so many things going on, it's really hard for them to drive any specific idea home. Besides the Ray, Kylo, and Luke stuff, I think that trio, um, again, I think it could have been better, but um, it's good. On a themes level, I think the themes are pretty meta. It critiques power fantasies, martyrdom, and harboring the past. Um, So it's actually kind of like this social commentary um, that reflects on what Star Wars has become in the public consciousness. Because if you think about it, power fantasies, martyrdom, and harboring the past, all three of those things apply to the Star Wars franchise. What the Star Wars franchise has become, maybe not the movies themselves, but how people feel about those movies. So it's actually a pretty smart, I think, by critiquing these ideas, it's able to both honor the legacy of the franchise and also take the franchise in a new direction, which is a tough balancing act, but these themes are the beginnings of that. um, Unfortunately, I think the drama, the themes, and the plot don't always align, so it's hard for any of this to really shine through and really be felt, but it is there, and I really like where the themes, where the thought was with these themes. So with the plot, um, there is adventure, but I do think there's missing setup. Like I said, with especially with Poe, I think he just says once, or I don't even know if they really clearly set his character up to arc. I think they do a little bit. So there's confusing messages, like I said, and the payoff doesn't always feel earned because I think Poe again his arc just kind of I didn't even know it was an arc, so it doesn't really feel like payoff. These crowded threads they create like a convoluted, contrived, and contradictory plot. I think specifically with Poe leaving, or sorry, was I saying Poe? I meant Finn. With Finn leaving Poe, um, it really kind of undermines uh, the tension in Poe's thread. They're being chased, and for Finn to just be able to come and go, it really kind of undercuts that. But it also creates a lot of side characters with them splitting up. There's also all these extra side characters. They have to set up Holdo and Rose, who again I don't have any problem with either of those characters individually. It's just that this movie has to do so many things, and it has to get through all these characters, and that time could have been better spent fleshing out Poe and Finn, and even Kylo and Rey and Luke more. Um, so yeah, I think the plot, there's just too many plots, frankly. None of them individually are. I don't love Finn's, but Poses I can work with, and Ray's I can definitely work with. Ray's is good, but there's just too many of them, and the movie can't. It's just too muddled. Um, the acting, however, I don't have a lot of negative to say. There's layers, there's intensity, there's physicality, there's growth, vulnerability, motivation. It's good. I think the acting does everything the actors do everything they can with the material, and even maybe elevate the material at times. They are good. So overall, I would say that the Last Jedi does a good job of not pandering and instead challenges its origins, and but unfortunately, its quantity muddles its quality. Technically, the Last Jedi has scale, spectacle, and clashing tones. That's the real problem, is the tones. I forgot to mention that I do think the humor is kind of clumsy and that the resolution's a bit incomplete. There are consequences. The world building is kind of shaky, and it just kind of feels like there are detours. That's in the plot. But back to the direction, the technical aspects. Um, there are clashing tones because of all that. That's kind of what reminded me to mention that. And that's a pretty big deal. I mean, the technical aspects kind of smooth those tones out to a certain extent, but also I do have to kind of blame the direction at the end of the day on the tones. Um, they're just not particularly smooth, in my opinion. The cinematography is good. I wouldn't say it's special, but it's good. There's framing, lighting, colors, depth, angles, all motivated by emotions. Um, the editing, I think, is a bit of a weaker aspect. There's crosscuts, actions, inserts, wipes, but also bloated structure and clunky pacing. Again, because I think if the movie's overstuffed, it just is a bit too long, and it just kind of sags after a while. The momentum kind of isn't what it should be, despite what it's dealing with emotionally. The sound is great. There's all the classic iconography of Star Wars. They have some good silence, smash cuts, risers. There's some intimacy, symbolism, distortions, and split cuts. The music is great, of course, as usual. There's a good balance of old and new motifs, and it all fits and serves um, what's going on screen. The production design, I think, is a little hit and miss. Sometimes it heightens metaphors, and sometimes feels awkward. The final salt planet for the climax, I think, looks great. I love it. But the casino planet does not work. I think that just I am not a fan of that casino planet. But I think the good outweighs the bad. But it's not. It's far from flawless. The cast is deep. There's exceptional talent, fame, fit, and diversity. I mean, Adam Driver is a star now, and this franchise kind of brought him to that level. And he's not the only one. I think Boyega is great, and of course, Oscar Isaac, Daisy Ridley, and everyone else. I mean, there's a lot of depth. All the elder cast members like Fisher and um, Luke Skywalker, whose name escapes me at the moment, um, and even Laura Dern. And the effects. Moving on to the effects, there's a lot of diversity there. There's puppets, animatronics, prosthetics, stunts, makeup, and a lot of CGI. The CGI, I do have to consider the fact that the CGI does get uncanny at times, specifically with Snoke. I'm not a fan of CGI in a human-like character. I think no matter what, it's just always going to age poorly. I don't like how Snoke looks, but everything else looks great. So overall, I think The Last Jedi generally succeeds, but comes across messy in some places, and those places are pretty key. But overall, I do think it's a good movie. I I know that's a hot take, but I'm hoping that in time people realize that this is a good movie as the discourse dies down. Um, so, anyways, that's all I have to say about that. If you like what I'm doing here, please feel free to like and subscribe. You're also welcome to follow me on my Instagram, which is linked in the description. But at the very least, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay, thank you.